A pleasure to meet all at last, and we're back at it again with video games that are totally awesome. For this instance, I've talked about Thrillville, but now it's about time that I talk about the sequel, Thrillville Off the Rails. And from wherein, therein, or herein, I'd say it's best that we get going on this piece. Because after all, we're going to have a lot more to discuss in this series. Thrillville Off the Rails, 2007. Much bigger soundtrack, much bigger variety of minigames, much bigger things to do in general. All in all, this is a sequel that's not only transcended to other consoles such as the Nintendo Wii, which was the version that I played. This also took advantage of the nunchuck device, a module that you attach to the Wiimote for usage in various games. And while I will say that the control function of utilizing the Wiimote and nunchuck in this instance works a lot better than, get this, they basically modernized these games, both Thrillville and Off the Rails, for modern consoles. After all, we got them on the PlayStation Plus program, but the main problem that I found out with both versions of these re-releases for modern consoles is that the control scheme just does not work as effectively. No, the usage of the nunchuck and the Wiimote in coordination with the TV, the Wii technically does a way better job at tracking the motion and the ability to aim, especially when playing certain games, including Tank Frenzy, for instance. I mean, controlling a tank, aiming the tank, firing the tank, moving the tank, it all worked so well on the Nintendo Wii that how in the world could they possibly screw it up for modern consoles? And this is of course just the base-in for what the control function was like in the modern version, whereas earlier they really knew how to pull it together. Otherwise, it's kind of more or less the same sort of thing as with the original Thrillville. The only real difference is that Dr. Mortimer is willing to go even bigger and better in terms of, get this, creating an amusement park that actually goes above and beyond to the point where it breaks a lot of rules and defies a lot of physics. Yeah, the idea of the subtitle Off the Rails, while not necessarily wholly original, it truly does bring about the unique excitement of getting into thrills that are so extreme, they might as well be deadly. Yeah, the ability to build coasters with some very specific inversions and special pieces. I'd say in this instance, you have way bigger variety in terms of selection over what pieces to go through when designing the coasters. And in terms of many of the other rides, a lot of which are a bit on the tacky side, and some of which do really crank up the extremeness to it, which I do appreciate just as much, if not more than the original Thrillville, which, you know, within only a year's time, the fact that they made a sequel and the fact that they did so much more with this one, it almost kind of feels rushed. Which seems to be more self-explanatory than what most would have expected. But on top of the many things that I've already talked about, with things being bigger and better with the sequel, remember when I mentioned that there were some notable songs that have been featured in Kaiju Force Neo's Ecstatic Times Mixover, the album that has spanned with 384 copyrighted songs? Well, Thrillville Off the Rails, believe it or not, does have a good number of them. Fountains of Wayne's Maureen, need I say more? And being that in the modern version they basically kept a lot of the royalty music, that at least was a really good call. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have gone all too well. But the game itself just sparks a good amount of nostalgia, much like the other one does. I mean, whether you're playing through the mini games, trampolines, mini golf, going on the rides, designing the rides, talking to the many guests, and letting them know about how you're doing as the park manager and asking for their feedback. There's just so much that you can expect from this game, yet a lot of the basic layouts are there. The 5 columns of light are there, the 3 mini games relating to the jobs of the workers at your theme park are also there, and then of course you have similar if not identical control functions in terms of controlling and or handling your own in-game character. I will say with my more recent revisiting of both of these games, I've been able to take advantage of some of the other characters. With both games, you do get a variety of different characters to choose from. One in particular is known to be your park manager. The manager whom you control and operate on your own rides, and ride your own rides. I mean, I cannot expect the most recent Six Flags CEO to suddenly be riding his own roller coasters. Especially with the most recent coaster that we're going to have at Six Flags Gurney, Illinois. It's going to be a dive coaster. Otherwise, though, there's not really a whole lot left for me to say here. It's a lot of the same old stuff, but with some new add-ons here. But let's just say that Frontier didn't necessarily go too above and beyond with this one compared to the last one. They added a lot more material to work with and even made the gameplay a bit longer than the last one did. Because while you do still get the same old stuff with the Dr. Mortimer cutscenes in between levels, the different parks to expand upon, the different racetracks, saucer soccer titles, and many other bits. Probably another one of the big highlights of nostalgia that most people seem to recognize was in fact the original teaser trailer that brought up. In fact, oh man, the voiceover really just tells us what we need to know. They basically lay out a pretty big summary of all the things you can do. In any case though, compared to the last game, this does so much more than the original. And that's why I'm willing to give this a much bigger scoring. So, in this case, let's just go ahead and give Thrillville Off the Rails a good 8.9 out of 10.1. Much bigger and better than the last one. And this is also the one that I've played much more than the original. Yeah, even with my most recent revisiting of it, because of how much bigger it is compared to the original, Off the Rails has indeed gotten much more footage from me. And I can't really say that if they are going to, in fact, remaster some of the old Roller Coaster Tycoon titles, that would be great, actually. But I get the feeling that maybe they could remaster the original in some degree, since Adventures unfortunately didn't tailor all too well. But they could also try their hand at creating another title, hopefully to do even better than Adventures did. Or we could just leave it to Frontier to make all these new roller coaster titles. Considering that Planet Coaster got a sequel a few months ago, that might be the best call at this point. Otherwise, I'll be back with more content.